All right, section 3.2, using parallel lines and transversals. A new postulate, postulate 15, corresponding angles postulate. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the pairs of corresponding angles are congruent. So let's draw some lines here. I have two lines. We'll name one P and one Q. We know they're parallel because I'm telling you they are with these awesome red arrows. Let's draw our transversal. Name that T. And what we know is angle 2 is congruent to angle 6. That's what that postulate says. That's a T. Let's try one. The measure of 3 of the numbered angles is 120 degrees. Identify the angles and explain your reasoning. So the postulate 15 says that if this one's 120, then this one's 120. So angle 5, because of postulate 15, okay? And then we know angle 4 and angle 8. And I'll say that because of the vertical angle congruence theorem. So it really is that simple. All right, some theorems. Theorem 3.1, the alternate interior angles theorem. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the pairs of alternate interior angles are congruent. Let's draw that. I have P and Q and a transversal. Okay, P and Q are parallel because of these red arrows. And I have angle 4 and 5, which are alternate interior. So this theorem says that angle 4 is congruent to angle 5. Theorem 3.2, alternate exterior angles theorem. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the pairs of alternate exterior angles are congruent. P, Q, T. And we have angles 1 and 8. And those are in the alternate exterior position, and they are congruent. Last theorem, Theorem 3.3, consecutive interior angles theorem. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the pairs of consecutive interior angles are supplementary. So angle 3 and angle 5 are supplementary. That means that angle 3 plus angle 5 equals 180 degrees. Let's try one. Use the properties of parallel lines. We're going to find the value of x. Okay, and there's a few things that we'll have to do. So, if we're trying to find the value of x, we don't know much except that consecutive interior angles theorem says that these are supplementary. So the measure of angle 4 plus x plus 5 equals 180 because they're supplementary. Okay, we know that the measure of angle 4 equals 115 because of the vertical angle congruence theorem. Okay, and this one is actually because of the consecutive interior angle theorem. I'm going to start using the numbers. All right, so let's substitute. 115 plus x plus 5 equals 180. That's 120, so I'm going to subtract 115, subtract 5. That means I'm subtracting 120, and that gives me x equals 60 degrees. That's it. Okay, you try. I'm going to go ahead and push pause, and I'll fill in the answers. All right, check that out, and let me know if you have any questions. Whenever you try, go ahead and push pause. There we go. I knew that the measure of angle 7 was 68 because of the corresponding angle postulate. And then angles 7 and 8 are a linear pair, so I can add them together to get 180. So x equals 54. All right, we need to prove that if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the pairs of alternate interior angles are congruent. So I drew P and Q with a transversal, and here's our alternate interior angles. And I also added an angle 3 because it's going to help us prove it, and we need to go through the steps. First, we always do our given. Okay? Then we know angle 1 is congruent to angle 3 because of the corresponding angle postulate. Angle 2 is congruent to angle 3. And that reason is our vertical angle congruence theorem. And now, since we know that 1 is congruent to 3 and 3 is congruent to 2, transitive tells us that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. Transitive property of congruence. Okay, another example. When sunlight enters a drop of rain, different colors of light leave the drop at different angles. This process is what makes a rainbow. For violet light, the measure of angle 2 is 40, which is the measure of angle 1. The measure of angle 1 is also 40. Okay, you can assume, and this is an assumption always and forever, that the rays of sunlight are parallel. Okay, so you always assume those are parallel. So once you make that assumption, the alternate interior angles theorem can tell you that the measure of angle, where it's given the measure of angle 2 is 40. So you know that the measure of angle 1 is also 40 because of the alternate interior angles theorem. Okay, you try this one. Prove that if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the exterior angles on the same side of the transversal are supplementary. So we're trying to prove exterior angles on the same side are supplementary, and I'm also going to give you angle 3 here. Okay, so we know that P and Q are parallel, and there's my transversal. Give you those parallel marks. Finish my lines. So we're trying to prove, I did it again, P, goodness, given P is parallel to Q, prove angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary. Go. Phew, that was a long one, and I did not leave myself enough room. I'll talk through it, though. So, given, this is what we talked about before, I hit pause. Given P is perpendicular to Q, we're trying to prove 1 and 2 are supplementary, and I drew a cool picture. Perpendicular lines, we're trying to prove that exterior angles on the same side of the transversal are supplementary, and I gave us a 3 to work with too. So given P is perpendicular to 2, awesome. 2. Measure of angle 2 and 3 are 180. Because of the linear pair postulate. These are a linear pair, therefore you add them together to get 180. 3 is congruent to 1. Okay, that's the corresponding angle postulate. Measure of angle 3 is equal to measure of angle 1. Definition of congruent angles. Measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equals 180. Substitution. So if I look up here, I have 2 plus 3, measure of 2 plus measure of 3. I did measure of 1 plus measure of 2 because 1 and 3 are equal. Substitution. And then angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary. Definition of supplementary angles. Alright, you try again. Okay, I'm going to push pause. There you go. Alright, your daily homework quiz. I'll push pause and write in the answers. Ask me any questions tomorrow. There are your answers. Moving on. Find the values of x and y. I'm going to push pause. Finding x was, I think, easier. I mean, if you look, I extended all the lines out so I could see the transversals better. And if I look at this, transversal right here, I can use the consecutive interior angle theorem. So all of this plus all of this equals 180. 2x plus 10 plus 30 plus 6x equals 180. Solve for x. Now to solve for y, I looked at this transversal, and I also used the consecutive interior angles theorem. So I've got this one and all of this. This plus this equals 180. But I didn't know what this was. So what I had to do was plug in x for this equation right here. So this equals 45. 45 plus 30 is 75. 180 minus 75 is 105. Okay, that consecutive interior angles, I need this measure and all of this measure. So I have y plus 10 plus 30 plus 105 equals 180. Solve for y, 35. Okay, last one. The figure shows a plant trellis. If the measure of angle 1 equals 82, I'm not even going to push pause here. The measure of angle 2 is also 82. Corresponding angles. Nice work. See you tomorrow.